All right, ready to dive into a career path that's, well, let's just say it comes with some
Your
baggage.
profession, people have a lot of opinions on, even without really knowing about it, yeah.
Ammunition Specialized Sellers. It's a topic that's loaded, to say the least.
Definitely shrouded in misconceptions.
And that's why I'm so fascinated by it. So we've got career guides, interview prep materials, even some stuff about AI.
The future of the field's going to be interesting.
It's a lot more than just selling bullets.
More than meets the eye, that's for sure.
Okay, so this Ammunition Specialized Seller Career Guide, I have to admit, it really surprised me. I thought it'd be all about product knowledge, calibers and whatnot.
Which is important, of course, can't discount that.
Right, but it's like the bare minimum. This guide goes so much deeper.
It's about the customer, ultimately.
Like, you're not just ringing up a box of rounds. You're guiding someone toward what they actually need, which might be totally different.
It's a more consultative role, a lot of active listening, asking the right questions. The guide stresses building relationships with clients, which I found really interesting given what they're actually selling.
Yeah, it's not like selling someone a toaster. You're dealing with safety, laws, responsible use. It's heavy stuff.
Huge responsibility. The guide really emphasized how much safety is a part of everything. Product knowledge, how it's stored, even how you talk to customers about it. It all comes back to that.
So we've got customer service, we've got safety, but then there's this whole other side that I wasn't expecting, persuasion. Like active listening, negotiation, even persuasion are listed as core skills. What's that about?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. But when you think about it, this job is about understanding the customer's needs, building trust, and sometimes having difficult conversations. Someone might be unsure about what they need or what's appropriate for their skill level. That's where persuasion comes in. It's not about tricking someone into a sale. It's about education, guidance, helping them make a responsible choice.
So you're not just selling a product, you're selling peace of mind, safety, knowledge, expertise.
Exactly. It takes a high level of emotional intelligence, not just technical know-how.
And speaking of know-how, the technology aspect really jumped out at me. Seems like that's changing everything.
Oh yeah, the guide went into that quite a bit. New types of ammo, how sellers connect with customers, it's all evolving.
It's like this blend of tradition and high tech, which has got to come with its own set of challenges.
For sure. And opportunities.
And it's not all like cutting edge futuristic stuff either. The guide also talked about how you need to know the ins and outs of older firearms
Yeah.
and ammunition too.
Oh, absolutely. Collectors, history buffs, they need someone who really knows their stuff. And that kind of expertise, that opens up different career paths. It's not just about staying behind the counter forever.
Yeah, the career progression they outlined was pretty impressive. You could start with hands-on learning, maybe even volunteer at a range.
Get that real world experience.
Exactly. Then you move into more managerial roles,
Yeah.
handling inventory, analyzing those market trends, even marketing.
It becomes a lot more than just knowing your product. You've got to think strategically about the whole business.
And at the senior level, we're talking overseeing entire operations, even shaping a company's direction. The guide even mentioned the possibility of becoming a CEO someday, which really surprised me.
It's a long way from the sales floor to the corner office, but it's possible. And the guide actually had this really interesting example. Sarah Jenkins, she started as a part-time sales associate, learned the business from the ground up, really took the initiative to understand the tech side of things, especially online sales. Within a decade, she was running her own branch.
Wow, talk about a success story.
It shows you what's possible in this field if you're ambitious.
But before you can even think about becoming a CEO, you've got to get through that interview.
Right. And that's where those RoleCatcher excerpts get really interesting. AI-powered interview prep. It's wild.
It's like having a crystal ball to see what the hiring manager is going to ask. So give me an example. What kind of curveball question would make me sweat?
Okay, how about this? How would you handle a customer who is asking for a product that raises red flags?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It goes way beyond just knowing the difference between a 9mm and a .45. It gets to the heart of the ethical and legal responsibilities we talked about earlier. You're not just there to make a sale, you're there to make sure that sale is done right.
Which brings us back to something that's been coming up again and again, the human element. It's easy to think of this job as purely transactional, but clearly there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, the guide made that really clear. It kept emphasizing how important it is to build relationships with clients. It's about becoming a trusted resource, someone they can rely on for information and guidance. There's a depth to this profession that you don't always see from the outside.
It really is about more than just the product, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are actual people on both sides of the counter and real relationships being formed.
Yeah, and that's what gets lost sometimes, you know. It's easy to focus on the stuff, the guns, the ammo. But any job that involves people, there's going to be that human element, those connections.
Definitely. And speaking of what's easy to overlook, I keep thinking about the future. We've talked about technology, but what about the future of firearms themselves? Like, how will that impact this whole profession?
It's a good question. Anybody going into this line of work, they're going to have to be ready to adapt. Will AI change how ammo is sold? How will smart guns change the kind of expertise these sellers need?
Will regulations change everything we know? It's a lot to consider.
It is, and the guide actually brought up one challenge with smart guns that I thought was really interesting. They were saying how there's some debate about whether smart guns could make some types of ammunition obsolete.
Obsolete. Wow.
Yeah, and if that happens, it could really change things. Ammunition specialized sellers might have to become experts in these new technologies, what kind of ammo they need, how it all works. They'd be advising customers on compatibility issues, making sure what they're buying actually works with their firearms.
It'd be like a whole new ball game. It's like we keep saying, right? Tradition meets innovation.
Yeah,
And finding that balance is going to be so important moving forward.
definitely. This deep dive, it's really raised more questions than it's answered, hasn't it?
That's what I love about these things.
Yeah.
It gets you thinking, you know? We've only scratched the surface here. Hopefully, we've given you a new perspective on what it means to be an ammunition specialized seller, shown you some of the complexities, and maybe even challenged a few assumptions.
Yeah, it's a field with a lot more to it than you might think.
Exactly. So keep that curiosity going. What else can you find out there? What other questions come up for you? Keep digging, keep learning, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.